So we used to always worry about SEO and Google search, and now it's all AIO, GEO, or whatever you want to call it these days. We're all concerned about, will our website show up in AI results, in LLM answers? In this video, I'm going to show you a pretty cool tool that will give you some great starting points. If we haven't met, I'm Christy Price. I'm a Squarespace expert and educator, but this video is for anyone with a website. Doesn't have to be on Squarespace. All right, so I'm here in my website, and you might be thinking, Christy, you're a Squarespace website. This SEO AI visibility, is that what you want to look at? No, it is not, in fact. My SEO score here is 50%. I'm ranking on page 1 for Squarespace Web Designer, so you can ignore this. It's not a how good we're doing. It's a completion score that looks at pages that aren't even live. There's also AI visibility that's in beta. I can't make heads or tails of it. I've tried. So this is not what I recommend, even if your website is in Squarespace. What I do recommend is Framer's new tool, and I'll drop a link below. Can AI find your website? Let's see. I'm going to have this tool scan my site, and we're going to walk through the results together, and I'll show you what you can do on your site to improve things based on the result I'm getting. All right, the scan is really fast. It takes maybe 10 seconds, and here we are. I've got overall a pretty good AEO score. So I'm not upset about this. This is great. Actually in the top 15% of websites. Now I will say Squarespace as a platform is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for me on a lot of these, but let's take a look. We're going to go through each one. The ones that I'm ranking well on, Findable, Understandable, and Trustworthy, we're going to look at those first, and we're going to come back to Quotable because that is where I could do better. All right, under Findable, is HTTPS enabled? That's the little lock icon you get if your site is served over HTTPS. If you're on Squarespace, you don't have to worry about this. If you are on another platform, check with your platform. Sometimes it's done through your domain if you're not on Squarespace, but check that HTTPS is enabled. The other thing that Squarespace takes care of for me is robots.txt is present. So I have my site set so that robots can crawl it. That's a setting in Squarespace. Make sure that if you're not on Squarespace, you have this text file at your site root. Another important thing to have is a sitemap, sitemap.xml, and you want to submit this in Google Search Console. Squarespace, yep, automatically generates the sitemap for you. Most platforms do if you're using a CMS, but you do need to submit it to Google Search Console. So again, I have a video on that. I'll link to that at the end of this video. Canonical URL set. Add a canonical link tag to the head of every page to prevent duplicate content issues. Squarespace takes care of that for me. It's automatic. Again, if you're on a different platform, just make sure that this is being done with your platform. I mentioned this before. This is a setting inside Squarespace that I'm allowing AI crawlers. It's in your site settings. So if you want to allow them, which, if you want to rank in AI tools, you need to allow them, then go ahead and toggle that on. So in Squarespace, that is under settings, and we scroll down under website settings and crawlers. And you can block known artificial intelligent crawlers by checking this box. You'll notice I do not have it checked. So that is the Findable. Let's hop down to Understandable. This one is not necessarily all Squarespace. This is some of you or your web designer. So you want on each page a single descriptive H1. So your heading 1, the biggest text on your site generally needs to be clear and descriptive and a reasonable length. That doesn't need to be a sentence. It needs to be a phrase. So on my website, it is Squarespace Web Design. That's my H1. I have one of those per page and it's clear. That is a choice I've made that your copywriter may make, that your web designer may make. The next is heading hierarchy is clean. So what does that mean? You're using your headings in a way that makes sense. So I've got a heading. This is an H2, H1, H2, 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 H3, H2. So you can see it's almost like an outline with these headings so that crawlers understand the hierarchy of what's going on my website. So this is important. And that's just part of good web design, part of good copywriting for web design. So you want to make sure that these headings are to structure your content and it makes sense to your user. So it's checking for that. The next thing is structured data. So this is schema. You've heard a lot about this if you've been diving into web design and AI. And Squarespace creates a lot of schema for you. I've added a little bit here and there to different blog posts to understand how it would affect my ranking. I haven't found that anything I've added on top of what Squarespace creates has done that much for me, honestly. So I think that this is all Squarespace, the structured data. It's something that Squarespace has already done for me. And if you want to do a deep dive on this, you can just Google schema for websites. You can get Claude or ChatGPT to generate schema for you that you can put in a code block on your website if you want. The next thing is open graph tags. This is stuff that's in the code. And most CMSs do this automatically for you. Squarespace does, so I don't have to worry about this at all. And this is another manual one if you're on Squarespace and in most web platforms. Image alt text coverage. At least half of your images have descriptive alt text. And this is something that you want to do for usability, for SEO, outside of AIO. So just make sure that you've done this and you've given text and you've given alt text to images that need it. All right, trustworthy. Internal links are present. Yes, I have links to other pages on my website. So let's look at my homepage design. I'm linking to my template shop. I'm linking to my custom website service. I'm linking to my about page. I'm linking to custom websites, 2-day websites. I'm linking to my templates again. I'm linking to my course for web designers. So I'm linking to blog posts or the whole blog. There is a lot of internal linking I'm doing here on my homepage. That is important. It's not including what is on your navigation or in your footer. So you need to make sure that your homepage is kind of like a choose your own adventure. So you're getting people where they need to go, and make sure that it makes sense for what you're trying to do. As I'm looking at my website, I'm in the process of a redesign very early in the process, and I'm thinking about that structure. That is what is the most important thing. So make sure that you have internal links. External citation links. You want to make sure and do this especially in your blog posts. So for blog post SEO, we've talked about that for years and years. You want to choose a couple of high authority websites and link out to them for more context about your post. Absolutely should be doing that for SEO, and it applies to AIO as well. And I think we're calling it AEO here. I say AIO. Sometimes you'll hear GEO. It's all the same, right? How your website is being shown in large language models and AI tools. And finally, I've got 0 points for this. It's an LLMS.txt file present. It's a bonus. I have 0 out of 3 points here, but you could do this and add it, although adding to your site root in Squarespace is pretty tricky. If you're interested in this, let me know in the comments. I can do another video on this. There is a workaround that's not great, but it works, and we could do this. However, Google just rolled out for their AI answers, you don't need this text file. So I think that's why it's a bonus here. It's not as important as some people are saying right now. Maybe later it will be, and I would expect that if it becomes really important, that web builders like Squarespace will do this automatically for you. All right, let's go back to Quotable. This is where I'm not doing so hot, right? So I do have a meta description. This is really important for SEO. Again, important here as well. I've got substantial text content on my website. This is important. You need to have words to give the bots and Google context about your site. This is important for SEO as well. You need readable body text. So if you are an architect or an interior designer and you're like, I just want images, I don't want words, please rethink that if you want to show up in SEO or AIO. You want to make sure you're giving context to what your site is about in the form of readable text. All right, this one is a big one. Content freshness signals. I have 0 out of 11. So I don't have any date signals found. So I need to either add a date modified field to my JSON schema or ensure my sitemap includes a last mod date for this URL. So I am certain that I have posted blog posts in the last 6 months to my website. So this is very interesting to me that this is not showing as a freshness signal. So I'm going to hop into Google Search Console and I'm going to look at my sitemap. My sitemap was last read by Google Search Console on June 1st. I'm pulling up my sitemap that's automatically generated by Squarespace, and there is a last mod date that's within the last 30 days. So I am so interested in what is going on here, why this isn't showing up. So if you are on Squarespace, let me know if you're seeing this as 0 out of 11 as well, or if it's something going on with my site. This is something that I'm really curious about. If you're not on Squarespace, let me know what you're seeing here too. Finally, there's a bonus option here, FAQ style content detected. Now, a while back, I added an FAQ to my homepage, but what I'm seeing here is that it checks for H2 or H3 questions. Mine is H4. So let's hop back into my website, change my heading tags, my questions to H3, and see what happens here. All right, let's go ahead and click edit. I'm going to scroll down my homepage to this FAQ section, and I'm going to make this heading 3. I do not love how big this is. I will not lie, but let's save it and I can deal with styling later. Let's see what this does to my score. All right, let's rerun it. I hit the back button on my browser and we're doing a rescan of my website to see if it goes up from 89. And it does. I got all 5 of those bonus points by going into my FAQ and changing those questions to H3 instead of H4. A small tweak, really quick to do, but it paid off. So I'm going to do a deep dive on what's going on with these content freshness signals, but let me know in the comments what you're seeing here, what you have questions about. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I wish you all the best with your website.